Welcome to Times of Refreshing, a conversation with women for women, hosted by Pastors Sabrina and Fabian Radway. Now, let's join today's conversation, already in progress.
The question is, where's the balance in the blame and responsibility portion when we are not, it may not be necessarily blaming, it's just that we're lacking, like we're wanting and desiring this one thing and we're just not getting it. It was like at one point, when am I going to get the blouse? At one point, when am I going to get the car? Or when am I going to get the
The
increase?
love, or I think it's in like what we're talking about. I think it's in self accountability. I think when we start to call things for what it really is, like, because ultimately what's happening is you're hoping for something, and that causes desperation. Hope misplaced is desperation, and so if when you can hold yourself accountable, then you'll be able to create a plan because you're calling it what it is at that point. Okay, I'm being desperate for this blouse. I ain't, because then you can say I'm not doing anything for real to get the blouse. You know what I mean? Because you're holding yourself accountable. You're being responsible for yourself. You can't put the blame on anybody else but you. And I think that the balance is in that self accountability.
I
When you
like
can
that.
say, hey, I'm not doing what I need to be doing. What And so that's creating this desperation. What can I do? And then you figure it out.
Exactly. And now this is key. This is why I asked you the question early in the conversation. Thank you, Kiosha. That was excellent. This is why I asked the question earlier. Who's responsible for your transformation? If you believe somebody else is responsible for the transformation, then you will find the fault with that person. You will accuse that person, and you'll lay the task of responsibility there with that person. Often, but not always, away from your own self. But you ladies all agreed that the burden of transformation laid with you. You see, I tried to help you out early in the beginning so you could accuse anybody else but yourself. But y'all insisted, except for Pastor, who said it's the Lord. And that's what Kiel's is saying. Ultimately, if you look at this thing and you say, okay, I want the blouse so desperately. Desperation now. Now I need to stop accusing the company don't pay me enough, otherwise I'd have enough to buy 6 blouses. You know, my husband don't make enough, otherwise I'd have enough to buy a wardrobe. My this, my that. These people take pay cost too much for the mortgage. Why rent gotta be so much? When you look at the situation and you stop accusing others, finding faults elsewhere, and laying the responsibility everywhere else, Kelsha said, now you can begin to devise a plan. Now, Pastor's right. There are some things for which, even though you devise the plan, you need God to make the plan work. Because even though you have a plan to make more money to buy the blouse, even though you have a plan to do X, Y, and Z to do better, you still need the grace of God. Okay? We have this statement that we say in Powerhouse, only 2 things are necessary, wisdom and grace. Wisdom is the knowledge of what to do. Grace is when God starts to work for you. Those are the 2 things you need to get the blouse, wisdom and grace. But if you spend your time blaming everybody, this situation won't never change, this relationship won't never change, my financial situation won't never change, and it's because of this, it's because of that, it's because of that. I don't know that there is a balance. There's no balance when it comes to desperation and blame. You are either blaming or you're not. You're either finding fault or you're not. You're either accusing someone else for where you are or you're not. You're either laying the task, the work of answering for the situation at somebody else's foot or not. It's either or. Kyosha's saying, look, if you want the thing bad enough, you need to embrace the fact that, look, I need to take control of this situation. I may not have all of the answers, but I know who does. So those of you listening, podcast wise, you're not seeing me. What I'm doing is I'm pointing upward. I may not have all the solutions, but God does. Responsibility doesn't mean that you have the answers, but it means that you're going to take on the task of finding them. And you put to rest the fault finding. You put to rest the accusation. And you take on the task of finding answers, usually with the Lord. Any thoughts, any further thoughts on that? Okay, let's read. Let me read really quickly. Pastor, if you could drop my hand, I'm not raise my hand. The thing sends my hand up. Now Laban had two daughters. Telling you a story out of the Bible, Genesis chapter 29. Laban, man named Laban, he had two daughters. The name of the older one was Leah. The name of the younger one was Rachel. So two sisters. Leah's eyes were delicate. Now, those who study the scripture, Theo is God, Logos, Word. Those who were word studiers of the Word of God, they have no idea what it means to have delicate eyes. But something was going on with her physically that made her a little less attractive than her sister. Leah's eyes were delicate, but Rachel was beautiful of form and appearance. So there's some competition already there between the sisters. Now Jacob, you know Jacob in the Bible, Jacob's ladder. Abraham was the father of Isaac. Isaac was the father of Jacob. Jacob had gone to work for Laban. And he said, I'll work for you for 7 years for your younger daughter. Here's the story. Jacob loved Rachel, the younger one, the one who was beautiful. So he said, I'll serve you, Laban, for 7 years for Rachel, your younger daughter. So Jacob worked for this man for 7 years for Rachel. And they seemed a few days to him because of the love he had for her. She loved him too. And Jacob said to Laban, give me my wife, for the days are fulfilled. I've done all my 7 years, that I may go into her. Laban gathered together all the men of the place and made a feast, wedding feast. And it came to pass in the evening that he took Leah, his daughter, the older daughter, and brought her to Jacob. And he went into her. Now, I don't know if he was drunk. I don't know if they didn't have no lights. I don't know what it is. How you mistake the older one for the other one and you sleeping with her that night, I got no idea how that happens. But that's how the story goes. So it came to pass in the morning that, behold, it was Leah. And he said to Laban, what's this you've done to me? Was it not for Rachel that I served you? Why have you deceived me? Laban said, it must not be done this way in our country, to give the younger before the firstborn. Fulfill your week with her. We'll give you the younger one also in return for an additional 7 years. You can work an extra 7 years. Blame and responsibility. Reconcile the two for the win. Now here's the rest of the story. Let's go fast forward now. Now Jacob has two wives, has Leah and has Rachel. Now the Lord saw that Leah was unloved, liked but not loved. And he opened up her womb. But Rachel, the one who was loved, she was barren. Now listen, I'm talking about blame and responsibility. Now when Rachel saw that she bore Jacob no children, Rachel envied her sister. And she said to Jacob, her husband, give me children or else I die. How's that, Pastor? When you really want it bad. You want that blouse. You want a house. Give me the It looked like she's blaming her husband. You don't think so? Read the next verse. Pastor Brittany, you read the next verse. You don't think she's blaming her husband? Read the next verse. Look how Jacob felt about it.
And Jacob's anger arose against Rachel. And he said, am I in the place of God, who has withheld from you the fruit of the womb?
Okay. So it's a matter of blame. Okay. She's saying, give me children. It's like, what can I can't do nothing about it. Okay. As far as she's concerned, the fault lays, I find in fault, the accusation, even though she may not be finding fault with her husband or accusing him necessarily, she is laying the task of responsibility before a man. Your transformation should never depend on mankind. Because like he said, who am I? Am I in the place of God, who has withheld the fruit of the womb, withheld money from you, house from you, car from you, promotion from you? Am I in the place of God? In other words, the ultimate responsibility, thank you, Pastor Sabrina, to bring about my transformation in life, it's really in the hands of God, but it begins with you. You got to stop putting the blame, laying the fault. Where did we say it was now? Let me see if I can find this again. Finding the fault and accusing and laying the responsibility at the feet of men. Stop that. If you want transformation in your finances, you want transformation in your health, you want transformation in your relationships, stop finding the faults, finding a fault, accusing the individual, laying the work of responsibility for transformation at the feet of men. Bring it before the Lord, because ultimately he's the one who's going to be taking the responsibility to take care of you, to bring about the transformation, the permanent, relatively permanent, irreversible, lasting change in your life. Any thoughts on that? Just one example in the scriptures. Any thought? Did that trigger anything with any of you ladies? Anything?
I have to say, Pastor, even in reading that, it just reminds me to, with everything that happens to us, we cannot change necessarily. But what we can hone on in is choosing what we become or what we walking in now.
Our response to
Our responsibility of where we are now. We can't change what happened to us in the past or what didn't happen to us, or who we saw, who we didn't see, or whatever. But we can choose now in our lives how we're gonna become the women, or woman that we're supposed to be, or behave like we're supposed to be, or speak like we're supposed to be, or handle our finances, or handle our relationships like we're supposed to be. Our past experiences may have shaped us into where we are, but it does not shape us of where we're going. So as we're going forward, we have a responsibility to say, hey, I had that past experience. I had this that happened to me. Today, I am choosing to walk into my destiny of becoming that woman that I want to see. So I think that I don't know if as women, we hold our past as our identity for today. I'm the way I am because of what happened in the past. Well, you may be the way you are because of what you experienced, but it's not where you're going and what you can become as a woman of God, or as a woman. You're going to become this person. And so now I'm going to take responsibility and, what does it say, knock off everything that was done to me and become into that person that I want to see.
the word that I hear in my spirit is the word response. Response is in the word responsibility, but it's response. You can't control what happened to you. You cannot control people in your life right now who, if they would choose better and do better, maybe things would be better for you. But your response to the whole thing, it can't be blame. Your response has to be responsibility. Your response has to be, I'm going to take on the task to answer for this, even though I may not know what the answer is. I'm going to take on the job, the work of finding an answer for this. I mean, look, it's clear. Rachel's response to not having children: Jacob, my husband, give me children or I'm going to die. That ain't quite the response. We need to have that cry be out to the Lord. Jacob's angry because, look, I can't do nothing about this. I can't do nothing about this at all. Reconciling the two. Stop finding the fault. Stop accusing. Stop laying the task and the responsibility for your transformation elsewhere. Let's talk about responsibility, give a definition of that in just a moment. Kyo, did you have something you wanted to say? I saw the hands up. Was that an agreement? Or did you have something you wanted to say?
Yeah, it was an agreement because I agree with everything that you and Aunt Trina are saying. Because I mean, I just more so think it's a big part of, well, I'll just say for me, anyways, right? Like when we talked about how you can't let the things that have happened in the past, something that I used to always hear, I heard it like now, maybe 7 or 8 years ago, is your condition is not your conclusion. Or like, and in this case, what you went through before does not determine where you're going, but if anything, it's like you said, like it's the way that you respond to it. We can't control other people, but we can control ourselves. And if you, and I'll say for me, I had to learn how to trust God to refine those weaker parts of me that did want to fall into the false comfort of victimizing myself, because that's typically what happens. You're like, oh, well, I went through this, so it makes you feel justified to be a certain way. And it's like, no, because it goes back to, self accountability. When you hold yourself accountable, you're like, well, I played a part in that. And then you have to tell yourself, but I didn't know any better. I did the best that I could at that time. And that takes trust in God and allowing Him to refine the parts of you that are thinking about it in a way that's making you a victim, or making you angry, or making you walk around and be in life with a chip on your shoulder. So that, I just was agreeing with what you were saying in that regard.
Very well said. Very well said. I couldn't have said it better. Thank you for that. Responsibility begins with your response. Your response, back, spawn to speak. What you say back to the situation, or what you say out of the situation. It's not that other people didn't play a part. They do. We're not lying to ourselves. The sister, the mother, the employer, the husband, the all of that stuff. They may very well have played a part, or watch this, may not be playing their part. But responsibility says, I'm going to take ownership for finding a solution. Now let's talk a little bit about this, because I'm not talking about usurping the throne and taking responsibilities that belong to your husband or to God and taking them on yourself. Because some of you sisters, if it don't work out, I'm gonna fix it myself. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is not accusing, not finding fault, and not laying responsibility for transformation at the feet of men, or sometimes at your own feet, just blasting yourself. That's not healthy, and we need to reconcile the two. Pastor Brady, would you read the story in the book of John chapter 11 for us, please?
Now a certain man was sick, Lazarus of Bethany, the town of Mary, and her sister Martha. Therefore the sisters sent to Jesus, saying, Lord, behold, he whom you love is sick. Now Jesus loved Martha and her sister and Lazarus. So when he heard that he was sick, he stayed 2 more days in the place where he was. When Jesus came, he found that he had already been in the tomb 4 days. Ooh.
Now, of course, he in the tomb 4 days. You heard the man was sick, and then you hung around and stayed 2 additional days where you were. And you got the power to heal sickness. You got the power to make people feel better. So what does Mary say, Pastor Sabrina, when he finally shows up and the man been dead and buried for 4 days? By now he's stinking.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. They said he was sick. No, he dead.
He dead now?
When Mary came where Jesus was and saw him, she fell down at his feet, saying to him, Lord,
Blame.
if you had been here, my brother would not have died.
Blame. Some of us, the blame that we're doing is we're blaming God. We're finding the fault, laying the accusation and the burden of responsibility at the feet of the Lord. And for some time, yes, it is the Lord, but we can't have this thing, this angst, this anger inside of us that blames God. You did this, you did this, you did this. The vitriol, the accusation. We can't do that. It's that strong, passionate, you. We can't see transformation with that kind of mindset, that kind of positioning. Mary shows up. This is Mary now. Now remember, there's Mary and Martha. Mary blames him. If you had been here, I sent the message, you should have come right away. The Bible says that when he heard, he stayed 2 additional days where he was and showed up and discovered he'd been dead for 4. Okay, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. How about Martha, Pastor? What did Martha do? That was Mary who blamed him. Tell us about Martha.
Now Martha said to Jesus, Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died.
I mean verbatim, the exact same words Mary said are the exact same words that Martha said. Both of them said, if you had been here, this is your fault. But Martha took a different spin. Read the rest of what Martha said.
But even now, I know that whatever you ask of God, God will give to you.
This is what we were talking about with Kiosha a moment ago about response. Yes, if you had been here, things would have been different. But my response is, my mindset is that you are the Son of the living God, and whatever you ask your Father, he'll do for you even now, even though my brother's dead. Of course, you know the story, Lazarus come forth and Lazarus is risen from the dead. Now watch this, because I'm talking to those of us now who the blame issue for transformation rests with God. We blame God. You birthed me into this family. You gave me to this mother. You gave me to this father. You gave me this husband. You gave me these children. You gave me this job. You did it. You. I asked you, and you provided this for me. I asked you for this car, and look at this ragtail car I got. I asked you for this house, and look at the neighbors who are next to me. It's blame. I asked you for the job, and look at the supervisor you've given me. I'm about to lose the hair on my head. The Bible says concerning all of this, your this, whatever your this is that needs transformation. Job did not sin, nor did he blame God. Careful when we're doing the blame that we don't lay the accusation. Is not so much the responsibility, that you lay responsibility before the Lord, but the finding of fault and the accusation. That's the part I'm talking about. Transformation cannot come if we are involved in a campaign of finding fault and accusation. Finding fault and laying accusation. We find it and we lay it. We find it and we lay it. We find it and we lay it. And often we lay it away from ourselves. We're not finding the fault, laying the accusations, and taking the responsibility to answer for it on our own shoulders. We're finding the fault in someone else, finding the fault elsewhere, laying the accusations over there, away from ourselves, over there. You can't be doing that with the Lord. In all of this that happened to Job, losing all of his business, all of his wealth, all of his children, his health, in all of this that's going on, Job needs a total, irreversible, lasting, and permanent change to come to his situation. He's lost his sons, he's lost his daughters, he's lost his business, his camel business, his cattle business, his goat business, the employees that he had, they're all wiped out, they're all killed. Now his body, he's got boils all over his body and sores. His health, fitness, finance, family, his future, all of that's done. But in his faith, he does not blame God. He does not find fault with God, and he does not accuse God, though the responsibility for bringing him total, irreversible, and lasting change does rest with the Lord. Any thoughts on any of this here? Any thoughts? Conversation with women, for women.
It's so interesting because, like, you're right. He didn't blame but you know what he did do? He trusted God. He trusted him the entire time. And it's literally one of the hardest things to do, is trust God. Because we trust ourselves. And I'm like doing everything while I'm listening to this, but I was like, you know what? It's a thin line between holding yourself accountable and beating yourself up. Like, we'll beat ourselves up in trying to be so responsible for everything. Because once you learn something like this, you're going to spend the rest of your week or the rest of your month or the rest of your year like, oh, I have to hold myself accountable. But it's a thin line between holding yourself accountable and beating yourself up. And that's where the trust in God comes in. I don't know if anybody's ever heard the song Power of Your Love. She said, Lord, I've come to know the weaknesses I see in me will be stripped away in the power of your love. Everything that we're doing in this is taking back our power. But if we cannot lean on our own understanding, then it is really the power of God that we're stepping into. We'll take our power back so that we can more so humble ourselves and lean on the power of God and lean on the power of his love. So, yeah, I was just thinking about that as we're talking.
Amen. Well said. Well said. Well said. Anybody else? A conversation with women, for women. Jump into this. Anybody? It's a thin line. That's beautiful. I love that. It's a thin line between beating yourself up. I see the unmuted mic. I'm coming to you in just a moment. Between beating yourself up and taking responsibility. There's also a thin line between taking responsibility and taking control over people, controlling the situation at the expense. I'm not talking about usurping authority. I'm not talking about taking authority that doesn't belong to you or taking a position that doesn't belong to you. You know, if you have a manager over you at work, you can't take the manager's position and start doing the manager's work because the manager don't know what they're doing. And that's why we're in the position we're in. There is a way to do everything. Same thing with those of you who married. Your transformation is dependent on your relationship with your husband. Don't castrate your husband, and there is a way, and so there's a level at which you really do have to get in the face of God and say, God, what shall I do? I will take ownership for this situation by coming before you and saying, I need you to fix this. Okay. Unmuted mic. Judah, you had something you wanted to say. Go ahead.
Just kind of piggybacking a little bit off of something Keisha said, a little challenging to put your trust in God is as crazy as that sounds, but it's so true, especially to this story, like with their own brother dying, like just imagining that and having to feel those emotions, but still without understanding, putting your entire trust in God, and that can be a scary thing or a hard thing to do. So as beings, we react and we have our emotions that take over, which pulls us away from what we already know to do. Or even if we don't know, someone telling us we know where what we're supposed to be on, but our emotions can really move us away from that into that. Like, if we do put our trust in God, the outcome being perfect peace, and understanding. So it's just full circle crazy how with our being, how we are being in situations like that and moving in emotion and then not even, realizing it and knowing it, but being kind of afraid and moving in a different way when all in all, if we just do what we are knowing to do, put our trust in our, everything, giving it up to God, that, we'll be taken care of emotionally, physically, and spiritually. That's worth.
That's solid. Anybody want to comment on that? This thin line. It's not easy. Look, there's a gentleman an older gentleman who said this to me. Just because it's simple doesn't mean it's easy. You know, just trust God. That's easy to say, but that doesn't mean that it's easy to do. It's a simple principle, trusting in God. But that doesn't mean it's easy to work your way through the emotions, to work your way through the feelings. Hell in Powder House, hell has broken loose. The flood is here. The trouble is here. The things that bring forth legitimate emotion, the desperation. Remember we were talking about this before. There's certain things that we want and we're not seeing it, and there's desperation here. And all of the feelings that come with that, the anger of how I got here, the disappointment, how this happened, the if it hadn't, and this should have been, and by now it could have been, and by now it would have been. All of that is inside, and the corresponding emotions. And responsibility says that sometimes when you take responsibility, you stop finding fault with the parties involved. You stop accusing them. You stop looking for them to do something, because sometimes, like Jacob, who am I in the place of God? I can't fix this. They can't fix this. You realize that your responsibility really is to bring this before God.
Times of Refreshing is a ministry of Powerhouse International Church. Listen or be part of the conversation at refreshed1.org.